This modest house, nestled unobtrusively in a leafy Wollongong suburb, is home to one of the world's largest collection of model trains, close to 20,000 items collected by Marsden Mr. Mick Williams. The tea house features thousands of pieces of rolling stock from Z gauge to 1, modelled after trains representing 11 different nations, handcrafted by the best model makers in Germany, Switzerland, Austria, France, Japan and South Korea. Entry to the tea house passes the workshop, where a full-time technician maintained the collection for nearly 20 years. A team of people working to the precise direction of Mr. Mick developed the building, built the layout, set up the displays and maintained inventory. Their collaborative effort resulted in the creation of the magical train house. The original residence on the site proved inadequate as the collection grew, and a new brick and slate building was designed to house the 1-gauge locomotives in glass cases on the first level. Thousands of HO gauge models, packaging never opened, rest at the ready for a layout that never materialised. From the early 1980s to early 2000, only pieces judged by Mr. Mick to be excellent were added to the collection, mostly 1 and O gauge. The HO and N pieces were packed away to make room for German, Swiss, Austrian and French. German through to American. German, French, Swiss and a few Japanese locos were commissioned, ordered, received and included in the collection.
I suppose it's just a natural progression up through from N gauge to HO to O gauge. Eventually 1 gauge is probably the most sophisticated, the best detailed, the best engineered gauge. So, I mean, obviously the closer you get to the prototype, the better the model's going to be.
As demand for Australian locos of this quality and value was limited, Reynolds models represent Australia.
My jaw dropped the first time I walked in.
The tea house second level featured 2 custom-designed O-gauge model railway layouts with computer-driven and monitored controls along 4.5 kilometres of hand-extruded nickel-silver track. Complete with sensors along the track, relays and touchscreen controls, the quality and volume has no equal in Australia. In the late 20th century, as computers evolved, so did the technology applied in the layout at the tea house. Capable of running 20 trains at one time, a day of operation could accommodate 240 working models. Meanwhile, another 400 pieces of the collection, locos and other rolling stock stood ready to serve in the roundhouses and laybys of the 2 halves of the layout.
He dressed it up to the point where he could still see the trains. If there was more buildings, trees and landscapings, it would have blocked the vision of what he really wanted to see. His passion was locomotives. He wanted to have a layout for them to run on, but the scenery wasn't near as important as the mechanical item running around the track.
The capacity of this layout to run trains is unequalled in Australia.
The whole thing is as best as we possibly could do with the materials that we had available at the time. It was a progression thing. Originally, the layout was built, it operated with relays. Each block was set up and operated with relays. That was a good system for a while, and of course in the end it ended up being computer controlled. We've got optical sensors around the track, and we tried to make it as perfect for him as we could.
Some of their track work is really beautiful. Those crossings and switches built on curves, they're really exceptional.
The layout consists of two parts, modelled on the operating systems of two different continents, American rail and European rail. Trains can fly over to the other continent to complete a full circuit, which takes around 40 minutes. In his 70s, Mr. Mick finally commissioned a piece of rolling stock to run on his layout in honour of the train that started the collection.
Of course, the Thirroul was a railway yard, and that, of course, was the interest. There's a small truck here. It always fascinated me. It is the simplest truck. I can remember them coming to Thirroul in reality. Very simple. Not to the extent where I went to Korea to have it made as a proper model.
The O-gauge rolling stock, the items collected to run on the layout, comprise about 20% of the total number of pieces in the collection. The 1-gauge locos displayed behind glass are the jewels of the collection. For Mr. Mick, the collection was never about numbers. It was about engineering quality, detail and accuracy to the actual locomotive. In the 1-gauge, this is most obvious, most critical. Until now, the tea house collection was truly a secret. Fewer than 40 people visited the tea house, and then only by private invitation, to see the collection.
No, he was very worried about vandalism. He only had a very small group of people, international and local, that would come, but he was extremely private. We were all sworn to secrecy.
He was very, very private about it. There was never to be any photos of it, and it was never to be talked about. So you didn't.
Mr. Mick died in September 2013, aged 97. It was his wish that the collection be gifted to the people of Australia. The Wollongong-based company he founded, Shin Investments, has donated items in his name to the Workshops Rail Museum in Queensland and the University of Wollongong.